Yes, my people, welcome back to another episode of Elias Shift, where we sit down with bold builders, thinkers, and innovators reshaping the future of tech and talent. So today we're speaking with someone who's trying to fix one of the most frustrating problems in modern marketing: wasted time, wasted spend, and tools that don't talk to each other. Joining us is Elias' mom, co-founder of EpiMinds, an AI operating system for marketing that runs and optimizes campaigns across Google, Meta, and LinkedIn using autonomous agents. So Elias is no stranger to the space. He's built his first agency at 19, went on to lead partnerships at Google, and is now building a platform that already got agencies talking and investing. Elias, welcome. Great to have you.
Thank you so much. Super grateful to be here.
No problem. Our pleasure's ours for sure. So now you've gone from building an agency as a teenager to working at one of the most powerful tech companies in the world, and now you're back in founder mode. So that's kind of unpack that journey. What was the idea that first sparked the idea for EpiMinds when you're still at Google?
I think it's a pretty fun story actually, and also how also why my co-founder Mo and how we got to building this. I think since I was 19 when I started in marketing and done a lot of things, I think I always saw that frustration that I saw people, firstly myself, but also people firsthand when I got to work at Google that are amazing marketeers, but are like buried in manual work and buried in things that they shouldn't do. And I think I also saw what that led to, like that's as a consequence for companies, for agencies, and also for the bottom line for companies. So I do think it was a big frustration for me. But from my side, it was a hard time realizing like, how do we solve this problem? I know there's all of these like legacy tools and all of these things, but I didn't really feel like it got to the core of the issue and could really solve the wasted time on manual work. So actually, like I've had this frustration like for 6 years now. I met Mo 3 years ago and we immediately clicked and started working on different projects, nothing to do with marketing, but started to get to know each other. But this spark actually came that Mo he's a crazy guy. And he, over a weekend, he had done like a hobby project where he tried to solve human simulation. So it's a bit of a funny story. So what he tried to do is that he pulled demographic data for the Swedish population, and then he built a multi-agentic system. So he tried to replicate people as AI agents, and he replicated 11 million of them, and he wanted to see how they interact. And then he came to me with this idea on a Monday, and he was like, "Yeah, over the weekend I accidentally built 11 million agents. What should I do with them?" And I was like, we started like brainstorming ideas back and forth and all of these things. And I think then I asked him like, "Hey, but do they have jobs?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "How many marketeers do you have? How many people can do marketing?" And he was like, I think he said like 23,800, some crazy number like that. And then it kind of clicked for me. I had this frustration like, hey, how can we make people save time and not spend time on these low value things in marketing? And I've had that frustration for like a couple of years before. And then this guy comes with this like, hey, I have 23,000 of them. So then that came the idea of like, hey, multi-agentic systems, agents is going to be the future and it's going to empower a lot of marketers to do a lot of better things. So that's like the catalyst to the idea and also what we're building now.
That's amazing. I really do appreciate that insight. Yeah, Mo definitely sounds like a crazy guy. Comes in, has millions of agents just ready, warming, ready to work. That's amazing for sure. But so in current marketing place, where you think marketing teams go wrong in how they interpret or act on data?
I would say that I think this fundamental truth is that if you look at what humans maybe are good at, it's not really making the data driven decisions. So at least when I worked in marketing and like myself, and also what I saw from working with like hundreds of marketers at Google is that it's a lot of guesswork. Outside of that, it's a lot of troubles with like, hey, how do we process the data? How do we get everything in the right place? How do we handle attribution models? How do we do all of these things? Because Meta says one thing, Google says one thing, and then there's something else that's shown in our system. So I think it's stacked against the marketer. Firstly, humans aren't good at it, and then also it's a really complex landscape. So I do think that's like a fundamental problem that, hey, if you look at what humans should do, should they handle a large amount of data and make decisions? The answer is no. We should empower that for humans to be able to do what they should do, like strategic, creativity, all of these things that we are better at. So I think that's also like a fundamental thing. Like we want to solve the data problem and then build upon that.
So just off the back of that, Elias, would you say that's one of the main things you learned in big tech? 'Cause I know that you worked in Google, so do you reckon that big tech, working in big tech, made like a big impact in how you kind of see problems in today?
I think the big things that I learned from Google that I've like that I can use in this project is, I think, primarily when you work at Google and also when you work in a role that I got the privilege to work in, you get to work really closely with a lot of amazing companies and everything from small companies to big companies. So I think the big thing is that you get to experience, a lot of data, a lot of industries, a lot of people, a lot of these insights that you then can leverage. And I think something that was true across all of those companies that I worked with, firstly in-house companies that I helped at Google, but also the agencies that I got to lead the partnerships with, I think the issues when it comes to marketing was all the same. And yes, it could differ from different verticals, but like the fundamental problems for like where do we spend time, how hard is it to make decisions data driven is still there. So I would say that the data problem was maybe not something I learned from Google. I think it was Google allowed me to see that problem and got to see that problem resurfacing across multiple verticals and for companies. And then I also think that something that why I think this is such an amazing thing that we get to work with is that I think that you also see that marketing is, if you look at what is a need to have and a nice to have for companies survival, marketing is pretty close to what you most need. Like, of course, you need product, but marketing is a core thing. And I think that I've seen a lot of companies that has an amazing product, that has a passion for what they're doing, but they are stopped with poor marketing. And marketing is also expensive because we spend so much time on manual work. It's also expensive to hire an agency. It's expensive to hire someone in-house. So it also has become the marketing is maybe a bit of a luxury product, especially when it comes to really, really good marketing. And now when we got to work with these amazing agencies, our hope is also that, they can help a lot more companies. So I think that is also something that is really, really like close to my heart when it comes to what we're building.
Amazing. So just again off the back of that then, Elias, do you think people actually understand how important marketing is for their business, or do you think a lot of people just think it's as and when they need it, or they can just put it on the back burner, so they might be focused on the product at hand?
I think that it's different. I think it's also come down to also the data, like how do you measure the impact of marketing? How do you know it works? So I think that is a bit harder thing, and also like it's such a common thing for CMOs and also for agencies. Like how do you actually prove the impact? Like how do you make sure that hey, we spend this and we get this back? And especially maybe that's easier for like performance marketing that we focus on. But when it comes to upper funnel and more branding, like how do you actually prove the impact of that? So I think it's a huge challenge, and I think it splits companies. Like some people don't really see the value, and some people really do see the value. So I think that's a different way of looking at it. When you said that marketing should, like, people think that it should be on the back burner, I think that is a trap that many people fall into, but that's also maybe something that we hope to be able to achieve. Like, hey, maybe marketing shouldn't be a thing that stops you from growing your company. Maybe if you have a great product, marketing should just be a tool to be able to connect that product to the best type of user. And that's also what our goal is, to be able to help agencies and also great marketeers to be able to complete.
That's amazing. I really do appreciate that insight. And to be fair, I was even doing some research into terms of the marketing space, and I've heard that a lot of companies wasting up to 41% of spend is wasted due to, of course, marketers never had the right data, but somehow decisions are slow and results are very inconsistent. Why do you think that is?
Further, it's an interesting number. I think there's a few of these numbers flowing around. I also heard that just poor decisions when it comes to marketing and like inaccurate data costs like $400 billion a year for companies. So it's like it's a bit of these crazy numbers. But I would say that it still comes down to, like, let's say if I talk to 100 marketers and a lot of these things, and I say like, hey, how do you make the decisions and why did you do that decision? I do think that there's a lot of guesswork and a lot of like, hey, we see this and it's a kind of a feeling and we test as we go, and that's amazing. But I would say that, like, when our agents recommend decisions, they usually look through around 20,000 like data points when they make like a big decision, or we ask them to do a QBR report and based on that do an audit of an account or whatever it might be. Around 20,000 data points, and that's really hard for humans to do. So when you like take that into consideration, like, hey, multi-agentic systems, when our agencies asked our team to be able to do decisions, they process around 20,000 data points. And like, for me as a human, I would never be able to do that. And yes, I mean, marketers are amazing. They can do a lot of things, and people are really good at what they do. But I think the data, especially performance marketing, is pretty stacked against them. So I would say that that's a big thing, of course, that can, of course, lead to those 41%. I don't know if exactly 41%, but of course, it's a big number.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a big number, and especially in terms of when we talk about on a numerical value, it was a bit crazy. But
Yeah,
why
and
is it?
I also think one more thing. I think like the big problem that I also think we want to move more and more into like is of course like attribution. Like that's one of the biggest problems in marketing at all. Like that 41%. Like how do you measure that? And like but the same thing other way. Like how do you measure if Google is right or if Meta is right or all the different attribution or like all of them counts different. And I think it's a really hard problem to solve, but I also hope that this, what we're doing can get to, allow marketers to get a better understanding on where their marketing dollars goes and also what that leads to. Because just one example of what we're trying to do and also what we're trying to build out now in a really, really scalable way is, of course, that, we support all the marketing channels now, but we also want to connect, we're launching Shopify right now and, HubSpot, Salesforce, all of the, the marketing channel, like the data channels that is around marketing that also is heavily influenced. Also, like we connect to Perplexity, we want more market trends, Google trends, Meta ad transparent library. Like we want to allow people to have like this holistic view of their marketing, and then to be able to have a multi-agentic system that can reason about that, pull data in real time, and together with you as a marketer, like reason like, hey, why is this happening, and how can we position ourselves to be able to work differently there. I think that's a big part for us as well, like to be able to add that holistic view and to be able to understand like what is actually the impact of what you're doing as a marketer, as an agency.
No, 100%. The data points is extremely vital for sure. But why haven't traditional marketing tools actually fixed these issues yet? Are they still over relying on dashboards and manual decisions, do you think?
I think first of all, I think there is amazing marketing tools out there. I tried most of them, but I would say that there's maybe a few differences. And how we view it is that, let's say that you look at you shouldn't say legacy tool, but let's say a tool that isn't natively built to be adapted by AI. That could be, a reporting tool or an optimizing tool or whatever it might be. I think it's a different thing of building multi-agentic and AI first than to try to take a legacy tool and a legacy structure and add AI on top of it. I think it's a heavily different thing. It maybe look the same on the outside, but I would say that to be able to become this full operating system for marketing and to be able to, go across all channels, make really good decisions and not just, analyze, but also be able to execute and most importantly, improve over time so that your system becomes better and better and better. I think that's hard to do if you haven't started off building a really advanced multi-agentic framework and also your own system of processing that data. So I would see that when we try certain tools maybe added AI on top of it, and when we see the output from our agentic suite, I do think that you can see the depth of analysis is a lot higher. And let's say that our tool would produce a 10% better outcome or 10% more, relevant recommendations. I would say that we, of course, we aim at more of that, but that would still be a make or break thing because, our users has been in marketing for 7 years, like they're really 10 years, like they are really, really good at what they do. The only way we provide value to them is that if we can perform the same type of, analysis and even better than maybe they can do, and more insights and more accuracy in those type of things. So I would think that when you build multi-agentic first, I do think that you get two things. Firstly, you benefit when the underlying models becomes better. So our exponential like quality of the product, I think, will go a lot quicker than someone who builds in the old traditional way. And then I would also say that the speed of improvements that we can make, like we add more than one integration a week. Like it takes us no time at all to add another integration or another module or another area. And that ties in together with the multi-agentic system so that the entire system becomes stronger. I think that's also pretty exciting when you build a multi-agentic first. But yeah, there's amazing tools out there, but I would hope that we can, cover most of it and people can just have one source that can cover all their marketing stack.
No, that's amazing. I really do appreciate that insight. I think that definitely takes us quite nicely into the next segment, which is kind of let's break down EpiMinds and what it actually does. I know you described it as a multi-agent OS for marketing, but what does it actually
Yeah.
mean in practice?
Yeah. So let's say that you have we work with these amazing agencies and we really try to focus on agents because we think the best partner to do this with. Let's say that you guys have an agency. Let's say you manage 50 clients or 100 clients or whatever it might be. What we want to allow you to do and what our system does now is that in less than 60 seconds, you're supposed to be able to onboard one of your clients to the tool. And when you do that, you get your own multi-agentic team. So that means that you get a team of 20 specialized agents. So each agent is specialized in one key area of marketing. That could be, budget, copy, keyword, strategy, creative, whatever it might be, that onboards to that client, that seamlessly connect to all of their systems that they use, Meta, Google, TikTok, Snapchat, whatever you want. And they can help you, manage that client and also help you get your expertise multiplied. So that means that you can ask it for everything. Let's say that you're meeting these clients tomorrow and you want to do a quarterly business report, or you want to analyze 10 years of data. You just ask your agentic team. You talk to one person. Her name is Lucy. You talk to her and say, hey, generate this QBR report, to go through the account, to do an audit, or update creatives, or launch a new search campaign, or launch a new LinkedIn campaign, whatever it might be. Then these agentic teams orchestrate everything. So Lucy delegates to all of the people that needs to be involved with that. They also collaborate cross with each other. They pull data, they make decisions, and with your approval, they can also go and execute that and then report back the impact of that. So you, instead of just being a specialist, you become a manager. You have your own team of 20 agents that you manage that can 10x you as a marketer. That's basically what we're trying to do.
That's amazing, honestly, and I think it's very obvious why. In my opinion, I don't think it's definitely be a disruption in the market for sure. But I kind of want to ask, so of course, the multi-agent marketing, what's actually like on a day-to-day basis for a customer? What tasks are automated, and what still does need that human input?
Yeah, I think also this has changed a lot. Like, and we launched our product, the first one, like 2 weeks since we ideation. So like, and then the product was more like a semi-good assistant, Now we're working more and more and more towards like being able to do more and more, integrations, more freedom for the agents to be able to execute, and better data that the agents has been trained on. So like, I think this has changed. Like if you would ask us 4 weeks ago, it would be completely different. But right now, I would say that there is a few areas where we see that it saves a lot of time for our users. And I would say that the first one is, of course, reporting. A large chunk of the agency's time and marketeers time goes, of course, to reporting. And this is not just creating, slide decks or reports or something like that. It is also like, hey, why is things not performing, or why are things performing? And based on that analysis, they, of course, make decisions. And I would say that that's a big thing that they use our system with. And that, just to be able to do that, in, like, to give you an example, what they would do maybe currently is, go through all the platforms. So they go to Meta, they go to Google, and they try to compare what they see on their backend with clients or GA4 or whatever. And or they do that, or they have a third-party tool that's maybe reporting and like a dashboard that they try to look at. What they usually do in our system, and what I think is kind of an intuitive way of working, is they just ask Lucy, like, hey, last 30 days, how does it look? They get an executive report. They get like, hey, here's the things that you need to take a look at. And the difference here is that you can have a conversation. It's like I would talk to you and you would be a senior data analyst that has access to all of my data that can pull it 5 years in 90 seconds. That means that I can ask you like, hey, okay, but you said that our CPC has gone up. Why is that? And then you can keep going with this conversation, and you can go everything from like, hey, here's the channel overview, to like in-depth down on pure detail. So you can work in like a dynamic way with your identity team, which I think is a really cool way of doing it. So that's like one big part, reporting. And of course, our system also allows you to delegate parts of your work. So what I describe now is just you communicating with the agents back and forth. But you can also outsource things that you want to happen on a regular basis. So let's say that for your 50 clients that you now have in this example, you want to outsource weekly reporting. Then you can just describe that in a natural language, like, hey, Lucy, every Monday at 9 a.m., go through all of our channels, check for these and these things, and format the report to me on Slack with these and these numbers, whatever it might be. You can just describe that in a natural language, and then Lucy will do that from now on forward. And of course, that saves a lot of time. So I would say reporting is a big one, and troubleshooting. On top of that, we also solve a lot of these like basic time-consuming optimizations. Like based on that analysis, the agents also recommend things to do. That could be, filtering out irrelevant search terms that just cost money that Google thinks is relevant, but it's not relevant. That is something that a lot of people uses our agents for. Like, hey, go through all the search terms based on the client context and the performance of those keywords, determine if they are relevant or not. If they're not, remove them, or like add negative keywords for that. It could also be things like, hey, update the copy, build out new campaigns, all of these things. But I would say that those are maybe the things that we saw pretty early. Now we're maybe moving more and more towards like, hey, how can we do full audits? How can we help agencies when they audit new and win new business? So we see also those use cases emerges. But one thing that's pretty cool is that since it's a dynamic system and we are not using like node-based automations, like it's a completely dynamic, our own framework, that means that there is perhaps not a limit what you can do. Everything is just like, do we give agents access to pull the data, and do we have the integrations, and do we give it access to actually execute? And we already, like, every day we're trying to loosen that a bit more when we see that the system works and our users are comfortable with it. And then of course the use cases grows exponentially.
Elias, I just want to say I think it's phenomenal with what you built. 'Cause I mean, even just the fact that asking, an agent like what search term should I exclude from my marketing, I didn't even think of something like that. So that's why I was going to ask. In terms of the actual user that's using the system, do they know the type of information that the agent is capable of? In the sense of, like, for example, I didn't know that I didn't even think to ask. I wouldn't even think to ask a question. What search term should I exclude from my marketing? So does the agents like kind of recommend certain things to improve their marketing, or is it like a limitation depending on users' information that they have?
It's a super interesting question, because this is also a bit of a snag that we hit in the like early days. That was we made the conscious decisions of not telling our users what they could ask or not. And that did two things. Firstly, it made them a lot of frustration in the beginning. A bit hard to use the product. But what it also gave us is that it gives us amazing information about what they actually wanted to use the product to. Because when we just gave them a, hey, you have this multi-agentic team, go crazy with it. If they ask 10 questions and 9 of them we don't support, then we know exactly what they would want. So we did that the first couple of weeks, and we got so amazing feedback, and it shaped our entire roadmap. So I think that was a conscious decision. I do think it was a bit harder to use the product based on that, but that was also the expectations that we set. So I would say that was a big thing that we also experienced in the beginning. It was a conscious decisions. What we are doing now, and what we're trying to move more and more towards, is of course like upskilling. Like, we have an entire bank. You can share prompts across your users in the agency. We have templates that you can use and all of these things. So like we're working on that. But one thing that is maybe a bigger thing and is a more like ambitious goal for us is that our goal is that we want around 8 out of 10 conversations or actions to start from the agentic team. So like, how can we make sure that you don't even have to ask, that it knows that, hey, you're meeting the client on Thursday because Lucy has access to your calendar. I will send you the report before. Or I always check the accounts and flag for these and these things. Or I propose to you that, hey, we should look at these analysis. So that's something we are moving more and more towards now. For example, just today we launched a monitor feature where you can just turn on like, hey, here's the things that we usually look at, and then your agentic team will do the same and proactively reach out. So I love that question, and yeah, that's how we handle it. But it was a bit of a funny thing in the beginning that we didn't.
I can imagine initially your clients they must have not been too happy with you, but there was a plan. There was a plan,
Yeah,
and
but
it
they're also
served you well.
amazing. I think like these agents they work with, like they're so early adopters, and like this is of course pretty advanced things. And it's like, there is these tools like N8N and Make and all of these automations tools that is starting to become more and more popular for agencies. But like what we're talking about now is like completely multi-agentic systems that are dynamic and can pull data and can train on, like, it's a bit of a different thing. So like our agencies that we work with now, and the only ones that we let in are like, extreme, really good at what they do, and also like has a high interest of trying new things and want to be at the forefront of that. So they were pretty understanding, and they're amazing to work with, even though we didn't give them that much information in the beginning.
No, that is amazing. But I did also want to ask Elias. So you said you have roughly about 20,800 agents. So are those the agents that get deployed to the customer? So the 20 get deployed to whatever client is, and then they're specialized based on what they want. Is that
Yeah,
how it
so
works?
just to clarify, like that 23,000 was just the most simulation. Like it was because there is 23,000 that works in marketing in Sweden or whatever. He
Okay.
made the number. We don't use that. That was just maybe the catalyst for the idea. And you wouldn't want 23,000. That would be a bit complicated. But right now we're building out like team of specialized agents. So that would mean that, hey, also that's the feedback that we get from our user, like, hey, we would love an agent that can specialize in this area, and then we build that and add that in the multi-agentic teams. But you would, like, when you onboard a client, you get the same type of team. So like for all your clients, you have the same type of team. They are split by client, so they can be adapted to that specific industry and specific client, but it's the same type of agentic suite that you as an agency will have.
So does the client sort of problems very similar, or would you say there's kind of drastic? Are there any kind of drastic differences between your clients? Would you say in terms of their needs?
I would say that from the integration perspective, not really. And because it's still like the marketing platforms, I think when it comes to like customer data and also like attribution and measurement, that is when it differs a bit. And I would say that there are some agencies that maybe need a bit more customization and a bit more custom integrations. And then, I think that's all something that we can help with. But I would say that in the baseline, this system when it comes to the integrations is similar. And that is an amazing thing. What is different is how agencies and how marketers want to work. And I think this is probably where it differs a lot from other agentic applications is that let's say that you do multi-agentic systems for agentic system for accounting or whatever it might be. That's an amazing use case. And it's nice because there's only one right answer. Like you can't maybe, now I don't know that much about accounting, but I think if you do it in a different way, like there is one way to do it and don't try to take any freedom. Marketing is not. Like because it's still hard to measure and all these things, like marketing there's 1,000 different ways of doing it. And of course there's things that like are better and not in strategies and all of these things, but it's such a topic and such that where strategies are wildly different. And that's also why you hire an agency or why you switch between them, because they have different strategies, they've tried different things, they have different expertise. And then our big question, like how do we make sure that expertise is translated to the agentic teams? Because like we work with almost like half of the Google premium partners, or like the bigger agencies in Sweden. And like, how do we make sure that they don't just have the same type of output? And because then what would be the impact? So our big focus, like how do we make sure that the agencies can easily transfer their knowledge to their own agentic teams so that they work like they want them to work? And I believe that I got this question like, hey, how will agencies look like in 3 years or 5 years? And I would say that I believe that a big thing will be how well they have trained up their agentic solutions and how well they have built their tech stack. And that's also what we want them to do. Like, how can we make sure that your knowledge is translated and multiplied for your agentic team? And how we do that is that firstly, we have this feedback module, so you can feedback Lucy and she will separate that in short-term and long-term memory. But also you can upload your own type of information. So that would mean that you can upload like playbooks, blueprints about how you do this campaign, how you audit accounts, market analysis, customer interviews, and all of these things that the agents then can access and learn from. And that's a big thing, and that's something we really try to do. So integration-wise, baseline doesn't differ that much. But when it comes to how you want to work, that's the real magic, and that's like what we need to be able to do in a really good way.
No, that definitely makes a lot of sense. I was going to ask, how did the agents collaborate across the platforms like Google, Meta, and LinkedIn?
Yeah, so I think that is also what I think is really cool. What we're doing is that I think it's needed that you have a third party independent platform that can help automate and save a lot of time, because we've all heard about these things that Meta is trying to automate a lot of their ads. I saw that happening in Google as well, and I think that's great for some companies, and maybe for some it's not maybe the best fit. So I think that it's a really, really cool thing to be able to build a platform that is separate and independent, that actually, that really in an independent way try to do what's best for the agencies and for the companies, and to be able to treat them, as independently, no favorism. So I think that is pretty cool. How they work is that, all of our agents, they collaborate together and all of them pulls data from different platforms. So that would mean that if you would, let's say the reporting example again, if you would say, hey, do a monthly report, then agents will search from all platforms and then do their insights, do their findings, and then talk to each other and like, hey, we see this from LinkedIn, we see this from Google Ads, we see this from Shopify backend, whatever it might be. And then based on that, they will reason, because there's different attribution models, there are different things. You can also tell the agents like, hey, we want this platform to be the source of truth. And then the agents will also understand that. So I would say that they collaborate in the same way as like if agencies and marketers would do it. You fetch data and you reason with it and you try to make the best decision. That's exactly how our agents work as well.
No, that's amazing. I really appreciate that insight, Elias. Elias, honestly, what you guys are building is definitely impressive. I know you came out of stealth, and within a few months you had 17 agency clients, and you raised with light speed as well, and that's definitely rare momentum in this market. So how did you sign your first 17 so quickly?
I think like I come from a really fortunate position that, hey, I worked with some of these agencies for a long time, and I think that, they all see where the industry is going, and they're really good at like, hey, how do we make sure that we still have the best value for our clients and all of those things. I think the first couple of agencies was mainly just the people that I worked with, and the companies that I know and that I have in my network, and that was amazing to be able to continue working with them after Google. And I think those are the ones that also really shaped the product really early, which was amazing. Then I think outside of that, I think half of them are like existing network, and the rest of them is of course like new ones. Like we have clients in the US, in like the Netherlands, and expanding pretty quickly across Europe, and also in the US. And I would say that how we can do that as quickly is firstly, like we value execution over everything. Like we think this is going to be an execution play. Like of course it moves so quick, and marketing is a competitive space. I do think we have a really good shot at making something really big and valuable for our users, but we need to move extremely quick. So I think that's something that we valued from the start. I would also say that there's a lot of pull from the market. I would say that let's say that you would go on LinkedIn and say, hey, marketing automation or whatever it might be, you will see these templates from like N8N or Make or a few of the ones that I talked about earlier. And there's like thousands of comments like, hey, I need this. I want to be able to have this template. I want to try it for my clients and all of these things. So I think there is a extreme pull from the market that they want to do more for their clients, and they want to really be the marketer that they should be in this new AI era. So I think there's a big pull, which is amazing to see. And what I would say is that you kind of quickly realize that there is a lot of limitations with these static node-based systems, and also like how you handle data and make it privacy safe and all those things. I think what we're doing is kind of a perfect storm. Like we have this pull from the market, and I think we have a product and a tech base that is really solid. And then also, hey, the vision that we have about the industry and where it's going, and how agencies will still be part of that, and also how we can do a lot more for a lot more companies. I think that resonates really well. So I think and also a lot of all of these agencies want to be first. Like they have in the baseline, they have a pretty similar offering. It's like how well they can adapt with this and how quick they are is important. So I would say that that's like how we think about things. And last like 3-4 weeks, like we've just been focusing on just building. We don't accept any, like we're still in a like request only state. But I would say that in a few weeks or in a short while, we will start opening up for a few more agencies. But yeah, that's how we got them so quick.
And also, just in terms of, you said you of course there's still a waiting list at the moment, but you are looking to allow more agencies in the near future. Why did you choose agencies first instead of in-house marketing teams?
I think this is such a cool question, and I would say that there is a lot of, like, when we look at the industry, I think there's a few companies that try to do these like full stack agencies, and I think that's also amazing. I think that's going to be a really cool thing, and I also think that that's going to be something that more of these traditional agencies has to adapt to, and to be able to compete with. Why I love working with agencies, firstly, like I love working with them. That's one thing, and I also do think that it's also from a business perspective. I think partners is an amazing thing to have. I think that is what makes you be able to move a lot quicker, and to be able to expand the product quicker, get better feedback, move quicker as a company. So like, just to do an example, like our 17 agencies, they manage around, I think the last number I checked was 270 brands that is on our platform. And that is like multi-million-dollar brands to some local car dealership. And I think that is hard to do. 280 brands is hard to do within like the first 3 months of a company if you don't have these amazing partners. So I would say that that's a big thing. I also would say that I think that when I look at where agencies are going, a lot of people, like we've seen that like, hey, agency is not going to be a thing. I would say that I disagree. I think they're just going to change form, and I think they're going to work closer to clients. I think they're going to focus more on the creativity, strategic parts. I think they can offer more services, and I do think that they're going to also be able to, be benchmarked how well they've built these agentic systems and how well they've trained their own tech stack. So I think that vision kind of fits in perfectly where we are going, and also the solution that we have. So that's also a reason why we, business wise, and not just because I think it's fun, that we actually go with agencies.
So just a quick question, Elias, because obviously I know you've launched quite recently, only like a couple months ago. So what's been the biggest learning curve since then? Because I know I think what you're building is phenomenal, and I don't think it's probably easy. So just out of interest, just wanted to know what the biggest learning curve was.
Fucking hell, I think there's been so much. Like I had my companies before, but it is my first time building, a startup in this scale and raising capital and all those things. I think it's amazing, like the type of learnings that you get. I think there a few big ones. I think is mainly how I think it was a lot harder to build the underlying tech than we expected. And I think there I am so fucking grateful that I have Mo. Like he's an amazing guy. Like built technical teams on Spotify, machine learning engineer. Like really really good. But like how it differs from maybe other agentic solutions is that we need two things. Firstly, we need our own multi-agentic framework that is adapted for marketing, because there was no commercial solution that could actually fit the vision that we have and the type of quality that we want to have. So we built our own framework for that. We tried all of the other ones, but we decided to build our own in the end. And then I would also say that since LLMs can't handle data, like numeric data in that sense, it's amazing with text data, of course, with RAG, but when it comes to numeric data and calculations, it doesn't really work. And I think what we tried to do before is that we tried to make the LLM handle the calculations as well, like actually in the LLM, and that did not work, because it maybe work if you say what's 10 plus 10, then it does that. But if you say, hey, here's 20,000 data points and you should be able to multiply them in a certain way with 20,000 data points from this channel, that doesn't really work. So I think that was a big angle, like that. I think that the reason like we can't do this without having our own two frameworks, I think that was a big learning, but also amazing. Like it's of course it's good that it's hard, because then if we are able to solve this, we can of course win a big part of the. Then I will also say a big thing for me is that like the velocity, like when you come from Google, you have this kind of expectation that everything works, like, and that's a lot different from running a startup, and you can't just wait for like the product to be perfect or do all of these things. And I think that is also why we were able to move pretty quick. It's like we launched 2 weeks after ID. We launched the first MVP, and then we've just been iterating and gotten amazing feedback. Like, so we can work on that every week with our agencies. Like we meet them once a week. So I think that those two maybe are the biggest learning, like how hard it actually is to build these things. And then the second thing is like, I think the big difference for me personally was just that it's a lot different working on Google versus a startup. So yeah.
And I can imagine, as you kind of said, on the whole transition of building it and getting the feedback, even if there were moments you was failing fast to mitigate it, to kind of get on the roadmap you need to be. And that's what I think is definitely important when kind of building a startup, being able to be prepared to fail, or just fail fast and then move on to make sure you get it right.
Yeah, and I would also say like picking the right type of partners to do it in the beginning. Like I think we're in a fortunate position where I think we've actually started to say no to certain agencies or certain clients that we want to work with, just because like our main focus is build the best product. Like that's the only thing we focus now is like we have a vision, we know where it's gonna be, that's like what we're gonna do. We're gonna build the best product for the best agencies. And I would say that to be able to also say no to that, so you have these amazing agencies that like give you hard like critics, but also are with you like for the long haul. Like they want to make this work, and really early, like now we're a bit more of a stable position, but like really early having these partners that are really good and want to believe in the mission. I think that's super critical as well. And that's a fortunate position to be in, but I would say that that's also something that we've seen like it's amazing to be able to pick the people that we actually build this out with.
Yeah, 100%. The collaboration and partnership with the right people is vital in some instances for sure. And then in terms of course, the journey as well. I know you raised with Lightspeed. So what were they most excited about when you came in and had your pitch?
I think first, like I think we were really psyched with Lightspeed as well. Like we heard amazing things with that, and of course they're one of the they're one of the big ones and one of the best VCs like firms in the world, of course. But I would say that what I think, and I think Paul Murphy, which is our partner, which is we're super happy to partner up with him. I think he's been also in the marketing space and has a bit of a pulse on the industry. And I think that was also one of the big reasons why we went with Lightspeed, is that they also had a deep understanding about the industry. And I think our end goal aligned a lot with there, and also they understood the vision. And I think in our fundraising, I think we got to really quick to a position where we could actually have a bit of freedom to choose. And I think what we had is that we want to have a big reputable partner that can really help us, and that also is Europe and the US. And then we also want someone who believes in the big vision and has understanding for that, because I would say that you need to have this marketing understanding to see where it's going. And Lightspeed checked both of those boxes. But I think from their side, I think, not to put words in their mouth, but I think they are really focused on founders. And I think that they saw that, hey, this is a space where they haven't maybe made a bet yet, then I would say that this space where they believe that a lot is going to change. And I think that they believe then in our background and also how quick we have moved, that we would probably be two good people to be able to have a great chance of winning this space. And so I think that was a pretty good match from both sides.
Wow, that's amazing. I really do appreciate that. And in terms of the next steps, where do you see EpiMinds going beyond the first phase? Is there a version 2 already potentially forming?
I would say that there's probably a version 2 every week that we try to. But what I would say that for us now is building out the team, which feels amazing to be able to do. Like now we're opening up our roles. We have 3 roles out, heavily on the tech side to be able to really build out an amazing team there. So if anyone wants to check out those roles, they're on our LinkedIn, which would be amazing. So it's a AI engineer and a full stack, and then we're also starting to hire more on the go-to-market side. So for us, it's now like building out the amazing team. Like we have the start, but now we need the best team to be able to really pull this vision home and to be able to pick the best people to be able to join us on this mission. So I would say that that's like the immediate actions. And then we're opening up to a bit more and start to work a bit more with the larger type of agencies. And that's also going to be a challenge, but a super fun challenge. And then finally, what we're trying to do with the product is, of course, like we have this baseline with our own multi-agentic system and we have a framework processing data. How can we expand to more and more areas? Like every integration we add, every functionality or feature we add, like that strengthen the entire system. So that's like one thing that we're trying to do, but also trying to make sure that we always keep being able to do more with the agents so that they have freedom to do more. And also how can we make sure that they can do more proactively, what we talked about before, and also like trying out how can we make sure that they can do things on autopilot while still keeping the agency's strategy and they maintain control, but how can we actually make sure that an agent could analyze, plan, execute, and then also learn from that. And that's something we're trying out now with a few of our clients.
This is truly exciting. I definitely know you'll definitely execute as well, not just try for sure. Nah, Elias, honestly, it's been an incredible conversation, and I'm really truly grateful that we actually had this time to converse and for us to learn more about EpiMinds and what you guys are building is truly remarkable. In terms of where people, our potential listeners, can find you or find more about EpiMinds, where should they go?
Yeah, so they can either go to those or my LinkedIn. We post there. We post the launch videos when we launched a few days back, and then we also like www.epiminds.com/Lucy. That's where we have all the information about Lucy. You can check the launch video. You can also request access if you want to do that. But then just feel free to reach out to any of us if you want to chat.
Perfect. Honestly, Elias, it's been an amazing time. Thank much appreciated for your insights, and we look forward to see how where EpiMinds and yourself go to. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was super fun.
No, likewise, it's a pleasure. And that's another episode of Navaya Shift. We thank you again and much appreciate Elias for your time.
See you guys.